Hey everybody, it's Brian Lynch. My amateur radio call sign is November Mike 7 Charlie, and today I'm going to take you through my amateur radio satellite station setup and give you a quick overview of how it all linked together, and then we're going to make a quick contact with somebody through the International Space Station. So join me. All right, so I'm going to take you on a quick tour of the different components that make up my satellite antenna tracking system. We have a couple of Yagi antennas up on top of a rotator. So on the right hand side, we have the VHF antenna. On the left hand side, we have the UHF antenna. And we use two different band antennas because we use one band to speak up to the satellite and another band to listen down from the satellite. All right, so you can see each one of these two antennas has a feed line coming out of it, going down to one of these amplifiers down here, little preamplifiers. The signal comes in and then it hits the preamplifiers. So these are SHF Elektronik preamplifiers. This is the UHF one, and then on the other side this is the VHF one. And these antennas are great, but they're not perfect. We need to have the signal that's coming in amplified as close to the antenna as possible, because what's going to happen is that signal is going to go down through these LMR 400 cable lines into the ham radio shack, and a lot of the signal's lost on the way there. So we want to amplify the signal as strong as we can right at the base of the antennas. All right, now at the top of this is the most important piece. It's an azimuth and elevation rotor. It's the G5500 DC by Yaesu. One of these rotators turns this metal mast. So this is our elevation. And the other one rotates this direction. So that's our azimuth. It's got one control cable for each of the elevation and azimuth rotators. And again, that all runs back through a control cable to the little box outside of the house here. So in these little sheltered boxes out here, I have all the cabling and everything go through to enter the house. So I've got one cable from the UHF antenna, one cable from the VHF antenna, and then some cables going into the house, and then a little spider webs there. And then I have a control board to relay the control positions of the azimuth and elevation rotors. Those just have a little device on there to help blow out in case any electricity comes through, like a surge protector kind of. So everything comes into this box, and then it goes into the house, and I'll take you into the garage where it stops next. All right, so we're out in the garage. I have these switches that let me, on the right hand side, these are all antennas coming in from the outside. And then on the left, all these cables are going out to radio operating positions. So the bottom two are the UHF and VHF satellite. You can tell the color code matches the boxes that were outside, the pink and the green. And then I've got another patch block right here for the control cabling for the azimuth and elevation rotors. So this is just a little midpoint where you can sort of intercept or disconnect the cables if you want with a switch, or you can swap to another operating position in the garage. Let's go look in the ham shack. All right, so we're back in the ham shack here. On the right is my ICOM IC9700. That radio is cool because it does VHF and UHF, but you can do single sideband, which means you can work a lot more of the fancier amateur radio satellites. Anyways, that's my radio. I control it. I have a foot switch down here on the bottom on the floor that I step on when I want to talk. I've got a couple of headsets here. Headset, one's for the ICOM. So that's how I talk on the radio. Now the radio gets controlled by a little box called an S.A.T controller. I have that all wired under my desk. Let's crawl down here and let me show you. So from the outside, all those wires, actually let me show you over here. All those wires that come in into the garage all come into these plates in my office on the wall. So we've got the VHF and UHF cables from the antennas outside. We've got the control winds that move the azimuth and elevation rotors. And that all comes down to the dual controller right here. On the left-hand side, the meter is for the elevation. Right now it's up at about 90 degrees. And the one on the right is the azimuth. You can physically move the antenna by lifting these switches up and down if you want to. We don't have to do that though. We have a controller that does that for us. So on the back of the controller here, it's plugged into the S.A.T controller, which is pretty cool. This little box right here runs a web server. So I'll show you that in a second, what that looks like. You can completely control the radio and control the satellite rotator from the S.A.T web page interface. So yeah, so that box plugs into the controller box, which tells the rotors outside where to physically move to. It also has a cable that comes out of it that goes directly into the IC9700 and does all the Doppler correction for you while you're talking. This is what the S.A.T controller interface looks like. You can see in the top, we're just at an IP address on my local network. In order to see what satellites are coming up next, you click on Next Passes, and a little window pops up telling you, hey, in a few minutes, the ISS is going to pass over. It's going to be 34 degrees above the horizon. It's going to be over us for 10 minutes and 35 seconds. So we select the ISS, and this map shows you where it is physically in the world. If you're in the red circle, you can communicate with anybody else in the red circle while it's passing over, basically. On the top is a polar chart track. Green is where it appears on the horizon. Then there's a yellow line where it tracks along the horizon, and then there's a red dot where it disappears on the horizon. We have a loss of signal. The pink dot is where the antenna physically is right now in the center. And there's another ground plot over here. So up to down is higher on the horizon. Left to right is what azimuth it's pointed at. On the bottom left, it gives us all kinds of information. It tells us the SAT position currently, the antenna position currently, how many kilometers or miles away it is from us currently, the acquisition of signal time and the loss of signal time, max elevation above the horizon. In order to communicate with the radio, you just enable the radio over here on the right, and you choose which frequencies you want to use. So we're going to use mode VUFM, the voice repeater. So basically, we're going to be sending VHF radio waves up to the space station, and then when they come out of the repeater on the space station, they're going to come down as UHF radio waves at this frequency. Now what's cool is, because in space communications you need to factor in Doppler. Doppler is the shift. Like if you hear a police car coming towards you and then going away, it has a Doppler shift to it, right? It goes, meow. It's my best example of Doppler shift. But radio waves do the same thing. So you have the frequency you're trying to talk on, and then this controller box figures out how much it needs to Doppler shift the radio waves in order to make your signal track and appear at the spacecraft the right frequency that you want. So the desired frequency that you want. So we'll give this a few minutes here. It's going to start auto tracking, and we'll go check out the antenna when that happens. So this is what it looks like. It's actually pointing at the International Space Station right now. So it's pointed and it's tracking the ISS. Let's go inside and see if we can make contact with somebody real quick. November Mike 7 Charlie.
November Mike 7 Charlie, this is Kilo Foxtrot 7 Sierra Lima Victor, Delta November 06.
Kilo Foxtrot 7 Sierra Lima Victor, QSL, copy Charlie November 85.
November Mike 7 Charlie, QSL 70G, so thanks for the contact. KF7SLV.
7-3. All right, and the pass is done. It goes back to the ready position, which is straight up and down. That about wraps up the tour of my amateur radio satellite station. Hope you've enjoyed it. We got to make a contact via the International Space Station today, which is awesome. We got to learn about all the equipment that makes my station run. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm always happy to help people who are interested in amateur radio. Until next time, 73, November Mike 7 Charlie, I'll be clear.